Where are you touching?
Well, I was down there, but at the top.
Oh,
It's kind of touchy.
are we ready to start? Will the Transit Advisory Committee come to order at this time? We have 4 members, which gives us a quorum. So let's start by introducing ourselves and staff. Will you start with us, please?
Hi, I'm Warren Holzem, member of the committee.
Nancy Muller.
Carol Blues,
Brian Peterson.
Scott Hess.
Todd Wood.
Heidi Muller.
thank you. At this time, we don't seem to have anyone from the public here. So we can move on to the next order of business. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes from the last meeting, which was in March? If so, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Move to accept as written.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So be it. We have no public input at this time unless anyone has knowledge of something that someone wanted brought up. Apparently not. Old business? Operations report from Scott?
Read over the old business. Oh, on the new business. Oh, sorry.
Are you confusing me?
Sorry about that. Early May, last month, we rolled out the new scheduling bid. We had talked about that on the last meeting, about trying to satisfy the increase in the dial-a-ride ridership. It's helped a little bit in the morning, but things are continuing to pick up as far as ridership on all services, especially on the dial-a-ride. So it's still leading to some challenges with scheduling during the peak times. They continue to be 9 to 10, 9 to 11. So we are looking at different opportunities to fix them while still being able to take care of our customers. Aside from that, we are currently looking for a new driver. Over the last year since First Transit started with Canby Area Transit, we really haven't had any turnover. So this is a little different situation for us, but we've got a driver that will be moving across state. So he'll be opening up a position with us in the next month or so. So there is a job posting on Indeed.com and workatfirst.com for the position.
Would there be any gain to put that on the city website? Can you do it by posting there? Okay.
No, the city generally doesn't post jobs for the contractor. It sticks strictly to its own internal postings.
What about openings for the committee?
The committee, yes.
Are they on there? for the committee?
I'll have to double check with Maya.
Okay.
She handles that. Oh, they are. Oh, Heidi says they are. So.
Okay, so Heidi, we're ready to hear from you on the Canby Loop service.
Yes, so our Canby Loop service, so I started off by giving you guys the total passengers by month so you can kind of see the trend we got going on. This is just through April, and this was prior to our most recent change of times. So you can see it kind of went up pretty steady. We had a little dip, went back up again. And then our passenger counts here, you can kind of see where our most popular times, as we discussed, 5:30 was not very popular compared to the evenings. As you can see, our evening is pretty good. And it actually continued that way. So our totals by month, I did a comparison of April versus May. The graph is a little kind of deceiving. You got to look at the numbers. It looks like it's a huge jump, but it's only by almost 100. So we've actually seen quite a bit of increase in ridership since you guys made that change to agreement to change to the, we currently have it at 555 because we were appeasing the rest of the school year because they have not made that 8:30 change just yet. That's next year. So here's our counts on the morning from our old service times. So as you can see, we had 3 in the early morning. And you can see now our new times in the morning, we've actually at 5:55 jumped to 13 people. So from 3 to 13, that was a pretty good jump. And then you can see at 10:26, that seems to be a very popular time as well, where we're seeing a lot of ridership. And the morning has become more consistent. In the PM, our old service times, you can see it was pretty good. And our new times, we're kind of seeing the same trend, but we're also seeing quite an increase between the 3 and 4 range. So it seems to be working pretty well. And we're also getting a lot more people in that last run as well to make up for it. So that's all I got on the loop
Well,
stuff.
I'd like to ask a question.
Absolutely.
Can you have a breakdown of what parts of town you're picking up the increases?
So we were doing tick sheet counts. I didn't include them in this just because I didn't have a full month of the new data. Do you want to take over part of this? Because that's where the tick sheets, the on-offs come from. Yeah.
So most of our ridership comes, we have a pretty heavy ridership at here. A lot of people start here at the transit center. We have a very strong ridership that hits us at Fred Meyer's. Ivy as well. We get quite a few people, basically all down township. We see a decent ridership. We see a decent ridership at the high school. And we do pretty well on Maple Street. Actually, there's only, when you look at the actual map, there's only about 2 areas where we don't see decent ridership. One of them's at Aspen over by Johnson Controls. We just don't see a lot there. And the other is Sequoia after you get past Fred Meyer's down to township. You have to take Sequoia to get to township, so it's sort of a moot point, but we don't really see any ridership there. But everywhere else, we're seeing pretty decent spread with Fred Meyer's, Canby, the transit center, and the high school being, of course, the 3 busiest stops.
So, of course, the high school will drop off.
It will drop off,
To the
yeah.
summer, but are we getting any ridership for the industrial area or picking people up at the industrial area? To go
Not
home?
really, not a lot. We get a lot more people that are going to the store shopping. We are seeing a shift from our just high school to more just general people. So
Good.
we're slowly but surely getting more of a shift into non-high school students. Instead, I think our high school is only about maybe 16 rides a day now, right? Yeah. So a lot of our daily rides, we're getting upwards of 40 plus. More of them are just regular people riding and getting to the stores and stuff like that.
If gas keeps going up,
Yeah, may
ridership may
continue,
increase.
yeah.
So was a new schedule needed to be published, printed?
Yeah, the new schedule was published before we actually started the new service, so it was out. So one thing Heidi did mention is we were able to find several efficiencies in our service and add a trip. So that's really helped because now instead of being on the bus longer, you're on a bus shorter time. So it's not a massive shift. It's 31 versus 28 minutes, but that 3 minutes it makes a big difference to people. They like that the bus moves faster. So
Does it make a good connection with the 99X at the transit center?
it does. We run so frequently that you're going to catch it at some point. So it's every 28 minutes. We have a minor gap in the middle of the day, and that's about it. For the most part, it's pretty steady. So.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any discussion on this issue? Okay. Then I guess we continue with your report, Todd.
So I wanted to just touch base on the State Transportation Improvement Fund for, I know it seems out there ways, but it's not, 24-25 biennium. We talked a little bit about the projects. I have to begin to really finalize things and present them to the county within the next couple of weeks. And what we had talked about is just continuing what we have for the most part. We haven't got solid numbers yet, but it looks like, I'm going to throw rough numbers out because that's what I've gotten so far. It looks like we'll see about 330,000 in 24 and 350,000 in 25. So that's a decent, nearly $100,000 increase of what we're seeing today. So we're hopeful. The problem is we've also seen this amazing increase in our service costs as well as fuel and maintenance. So as much as I'd love to say, hey, we're going to have some extra money to throw out some extra projects, we're just not. In fact, in my crunching of the numbers, it looks like I'm actually going to have to drop fuel and maintenance off of the reimbursement list for this service. Originally, when I applied for these, I put them in there so I can get reimbursed for them for the stiff and just cover operational costs because it's just going to be right there. There is a minor possibility we'll have carryover, which means we'll have leftover stiff funds. So one of the things I wanted to ask is if we had extra money, is there any desire or project that you'd like me to look at as a possibility? And I don't know that there will be, to be honest. I just wanted to see if there was any interest. And because what I'd rather do is put something in there and never be able to use it than have all this extra money sitting there for 2 years. Because it doesn't matter if extra money comes in. If I don't ask to do a project, I can't use that money. It just sits there for 2 years.
As a user of CAT and an ADA rider, I'd like some Sunday service.
Okay. Well, what specifically? Because I know for sure I can't do everything. Because I've got a contractor who would have to start covering, which means dispatchers, drivers. So what would we like to look at specifically?
Well, as long as you maintain the policy that a 24-hour notice is given for a ride, you pretty well know how many what drivers you're going to need on a Sunday, right?
Right, sure.
Because the calls have to come in on Saturday.
So are we thinking just Dial-A-Ride on Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
From ability, maybe 9 o'clock, it's starting at 9 in the morning, so you can get to church.
Okay.
And then maybe end at 6 in the evening, so give up time to go to a movie or go to dinner, or just go visit friends.
We can look at that. That is in our transit master plan.
And
That
if
was
that
the next one on the
proves to
list.
be too much, then if you just had it through the afternoon, like from 12 to 5:30 or 6, because many of the churches offer transportation to
Mhm.
people who really want to go.
I can crunch numbers and see what that looks like.
Okay. I think that there are a lot of people, like Hope Village, places like that would, a lot of people in Hope Village still drive and still have cars. And sometimes another person without transportation can get a ride, but they like to be independent and plan
Sure.
their own trips and so on.
Okay, we can look at what that looks like financially and look at the possibilities.
And it might be helpful if you took some kind of a survey at the Canby Adult Center,
Mhm.
because a lot of Hope Village people go there for lunch and different services. And I may be the only one who wants this, so who knows?
No, it's when the transit master plan was done. It was Saturday service was number 1. The loop was number 2 and number 3 was Sunday service. So that fits with the pattern of what's in that plan.
No, I'm not suggesting that it be limited to ADA.
Sure, no, we
Because
would have,
anytime that there's room for general public,
Yeah.
they should have the same access.
yeah, that would have to be general public because it wouldn't be right otherwise. Especially if I have to drag the contractor in and a dispatcher in, we'd want to make sure we got as much ridership as we possibly could during that time frame.
Anyone else have any comments? Nancy, what about you?
I think that's a great first step. Falls right into place with being in third place. So
Sure.
So when will you know whether or not there's funds for this? Next year?
It'll probably be close. No, it'll be this year. It's probably going to be closer to August, September.
But it's going to be dependent on fuel costs and that sort of thing? Or is this
No,
all
it's
separate?
completely dependent on the state providing numbers to TriMet, the parsing those numbers and giving them to us.
Okay.
And then my finance department and I looking at what we've spent so far and what we may have left over.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of a gap right now because we haven't got those numbers yet. Which is interesting because usually we have them before this point, but we haven't gotten them yet. So we're pushing this pretty close. Actual projects, I think, are due into TriMet in October. So that's when they will actually go there. The Clackamas County presentations will be in July? I don't remember. To talk about potential projects before we actually go forward.
So this is July of this year?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there are people who would like Sunday service on the 99 as well.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see some access to people in Canby to be able to access local businesses.
Yeah, I don't know that the 99 is financially feasible right now, especially with gas the way it is. We're paying about $7,800 every 2 weeks for gasoline right now.
Now, can you set a limit on to where the bus could go on Sunday? So it remains
Yeah, we
in-
could.
In Canby, not make trips into Oregon City?
We could, but then your 99 is better off not being there and you're just better off with the general public dial ride.
Yeah.
Which is probably, if we're gonna start Sunday service or look at Sunday service and we want to stick within the city, we're better off looking at either the dial ride or the loop. And right now we'd want to expand the loop to Saturday before we ever even consider Sunday.
Well, I hope I'm not wrong, but I really think people would appreciate being able to get out and do something on a Sunday.
Sure.
You know, and it might make a difference in the business community.
Mhm. Okay, I have no problem crunching those numbers and taking a look. at that
Okay.
one, so.
So is that, are you down to the comments?
Well, let me see. Where we at?
Or committee openings?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I had one suggestion. What-
Yeah, absolutely.
Have we looked in, I remember last meeting, we were talking about covered areas for some of the bus stops. Is that something that we can? also
Oh, yeah,
look at?
the shelters, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, those actually went to the council last night and got approval to order 9 shelters plus 1 non-shelter. We can't put a shelter on Locust Street because of right of way. So I have to wait till June 15th.
Okay.
And then once they approve it there, then I will place the order. And this is all dependent upon the ODOT's work. So ODOT's going to have to come in, redo the intersections. Once they're done with the intersections, then we will be able to go in and install the shelters. So we'll have 9 shelters with 1 bus stops and a light in it. And then after that, we can start talking about spreading that further.
Okay.
So,
So do you have a plan of where these stops will go?
yes. Yeah, well, they'll go where the bus stops are now. So the shelters are just going to go where the bus stops are now.
Along 99,
Mhm.
but not through town?
Not, yeah, from Berg Parkway to Territorial,
Okay,
along the 99X line.
okay.
And this has been plans for like 3 years now. So it's been going on for ever and ever, amen. Because it's tied to this particular repaving and rebuilding of 99. So the city itself is going to do Territorial and Redwood. We've got that being designed right now by the city engineers. And our city public works department will be doing the flat work to get those ready. So it should, hopefully by this time next year, we should have shelters.
Good.
That's the hope. So,
Good.
as far as just to continue on real quick with the stiff, I have not yet heard from Salem to talk to them because I would still like to talk to Salem about getting some money to expand the Woodburn route and see what that looks like. Salem did come to me, and I thought I would bring this up. We'll talk about this a little bit in a little while, a little bit further. But Salem did come to me with some ideas of expanding the 99X, which we'd have to do with stiff money, most likely. They're pretty extreme, so I'm not sure that we'd want to do that. Clackamas County also approached me with some ideas of expanding the 99X. So a lot of people want us to, the 99E corridor is a huge corridor in our region, and it has very little service. We provide some of the most service on there. You know, TriMet provides everything from Oregon City into Portland, but we provide the best service south. Not even Salem is quite as good as we are. So they would like us to expand that level of service to other areas. And so we could talk about that here in a little bit, though.
Okay. So does that take care of all of the old business? Is everyone-
No, committee openings. Yeah, you mentioned that. We lost Paul. I've blanked him out. No. Paul is now employee of the city, and as an employee of the city, Paul cannot serve on the Transit Advisory Board.
Right.
So we unfortunately lost him to that role, which is good because it's exciting to have him as a member of the city, and bad because I really would have preferred he stay on the Transit Advisory Committee. But that means we now have 3 openings, and not most of our committees are struggling to find people. So right now, this is what we have. So if you know people who are interested, we really could use some more bodies.
Well, I would suggest, when does the high school let out?
Graduation is actually tomorrow. I get to go enjoy it in the nice hot sun, hopefully. And last school day is actually next week on the 9th for the rest of the kids from elementary through high school.
Well, it seems to me when my kids were in high school, which of course was, they're all in their 60s now, so that tells you something. But they had counselors who would help them find service jobs, things that they could use to count for community service. And maybe going through the counselors at the high school is a way to get a young person on our committee, preferably a Spanish speaking and someone who uses the bus.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll continue to look at that. We've reached out a few times and we haven't had much luck.
But by reaching out, what does that mean?
We've got in contact with the folks who are in charge of those areas and talked to them, and we've put out notices. We've only had one high schooler apply. So, and that was that one gentleman that you interviewed that one time. That's the only high schooler who've had apply. So.
Then county fair is coming up. Will we have a
Yes.
booth at the fair?
I don't know. I don't know that we even talked about the county fair. We do have Bridge and Cultures. We will be
Yes.
there in July and August.
Yeah, July 30th and August 27th, I want to say off the top of my head. I will be at Bridging Cultures along with Smart Wilsonville
Yeah,
to
but
promote our
If
services.
we had some kind of a booth at the fair, we could talk to people who might be interested.
Yeah.
Kids go to the fair. People from the Spanish-speaking community go to the fair. You have to meet the people where they are
Yeah.
in order to make contact with them. Just
Sure.
going through an organization doesn't necessarily
That is a true statement.
get down.
Yeah, we'll look into the fair and see what that takes.
And isn't there some celebration around July 4th?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Well, I think the parade, and if there's booths,
Yeah.
maybe we could have a,
Well, we have that under new business, so we'll talk about the 4th of
Okay.
July.
so does anyone have any suggestions? You know anyone who might be interested in serving on the committee?
Don't know of anybody.
Talk to your friends, talk to your kids' friends. Talk to your wife's friends. Because pretty soon you're gonna have another one, because I will be ending my service in the spring when
Yeah,
my time is
that's
up.
right.
Okay, so let's move on to new business. Dial-a-ride service, 20-minute window.
All right, so I'm going to start this and then I'm going to hand it over to Heidi in a minute. We have two problems and they're good problems to have. Well, we have one big problem that's causing several other problems. The big problem is dial-a-ride is increasing rapidly, which is a good problem to have. We want dial-a-ride to increase rapidly, but we're running into scheduling problems and scheduling issues that are causing lost service time and other issues. The first issue we're going to address is a fairly simple one. It's not listed in here, but I just wanted to let you all know. Right now, we tell everybody we're going to call at around or after 5 p.m. That's not sustainable at this point. We allow people to call up to 5 p.m. for scheduling, and then our poor dispatchers are trying to make calls out while building a schedule. And there's just too much activity and too many rides. So we will be sending out a mailer to all our dial-a-ride customers to let them know that calls will be made no later than 7 p.m. And won't begin until after 5:30 p.m. So we give them a window. It'll be easier on our dispatchers. They can then stop taking calls at 5, have time to refine the schedule and be able to make their calls in a time frame that works for them as opposed to the pressure they currently feel. The other problem we have is the current language allows a 20-minute window with the time they choose in the dead center of the 20-minute window, and that isn't working well. So Heidi's proposing a change, and I think it'll make it better for our drivers, but I'm gonna let her explain it in detail.
Yeah, so basically our 20-minute window, the way the verbiage reads is 10 minutes before or after you're given pickup time. What we'll be doing after this letter goes out is we're actually just going to give a 20-minute block. We will tell people your bus will be here between 9 a.m. and 9:20 p.m. So then the bus can arrive at any time between 9 and 9:20 to pick you up and get you to your destination on time. This gives us a little bit more leeway. So if we ended up placing somebody here and then somebody else calls right at the last minute and we have nowhere else to squeeze them, but we've already told somebody, oh, we have you, and that's one of the reasons we're also changing the call times. 9:15, we can then move it back or forth within that time frame to make the trips work, because we're having to group a lot of people now. People are starting to share the buses a lot more.
That's good.
Yes, it is very good. So that's what the dispatchers are gonna now do. So instead of getting a specific time like everybody does now, like we'll be there at 3:33, and then people know 10 minutes before or after that, they're just gonna get that blocked window time. It's the same thing that most services around here do, like TriMet and Wilsonville and all them, so.
It's a positive change for us because it gives our buses a little more flexibility. Because right now we're running up into timeframes where we're getting there either way earlier or way later. And if we can get that 20-minute window a little more flexible, we can flex the schedule as necessary because of the number of people. So some people just aren't going to like it because some folks just like that. I know the bus is supposed to be here at exactly this time. It feels a little bit like, the cable man. I'll be here between, 2 and 3 weeks from now. But I think it's a necessary change, and it's a change that should help us with our scheduling a little bit more. And hopefully, once we get past the hump of everybody not liking the change, it'll make a better experience for folks. At least that's the goal. And it is more in line with our partners, our area partners. They give a window of when the bus will arrive as opposed to a specific time frame.
Well, personally, I am finding that the times that the bus comes at the designated time is very rare.
Yeah.
They're nearly always 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
Which if you have an appointment, like I had an appointment at 1:30 yesterday at Proactive. I told them the appointment was at 1:30. They got me there before the time I was supposed to be picked up. I was supposed to be picked up at 9 after, and I got there like at 8 after, so it's, I can understand what you're saying about, more flexibility, but as it stands now, if I have a pickup at 1:15, I know that I have to be out there before 1:10, because if they come at 1:05, they have to wait 5 minutes. Is that going to continue?
The 5-minute waits?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll be given your window, and when the driver arrives within that window, they will start their countdown,
Okay.
and you will have 5 minutes for the bus. I'm not sure, you can cut me off if I might be jumping ahead. We are looking at technology, as we've talked before, and some of the technology for the paratransit service for Dial Ride allows us to, some of them, actually put in a call or your bus is going to be there in the next 5 minutes or so, and it'll give you an alert. So I'm right now reviewing that to see which system we like. So there is possibilities that we will also have ahead calls saying, hey, you're the next stop, get ready, or your bus is out front.
Could it be as simple as maybe giving a company cell phone to the driver and say, I'll be there in 5 minutes? texting or automated,
Mhm.
like you're,
That's not a way we can set that system up. It would be coming from an MDT.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
But you won't start it unless it's going to happen every time to every passenger? There won't be a hit and miss. Sometimes you get a call, sometimes you don't.
as far as I know, it's,
That, we haven't even fleshed out the details of that.
yeah,
yet. So
it's a work
that's-
in progress.
Right now, we're just reviewing, the city of Sandy did a request for proposals, brought in several companies, included Canby and several other cities with them, so we don't have to do our own technology RFP. And so right now, we're reviewing the RFP options and seeing whether or not we want to stick with our current vendor or whether or not we want to go with a new vendor that was successful in the RFP.
Okay.
Once we do that, then we sit down with the vendor and we spec out the tech we want. And then we bring it all in-house, and then we say, we're talking 6
Months.
months to a year
Right.
before we even get anywhere close to anything like that. So it's.
Well, here's something else you might want to keep in mind when you're making those decisions. I'm sure there are probably other people in the city like me who cannot see the street from
Yeah.
inside my house.
Sure.
So I have taken to sitting in the garage to wait for the bus. But there's times when it's very, very hot or very, very cold.
Sure.
But if I knew I was going to get a call that said the bus will be there in 5 minutes, I could stay in my nice warm house. And in 5 minutes, I'd have time to get my coat on and lock the door and be out there. But I wouldn't want to count on it if it wasn't going to just be a thing I could rely on.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about the technology to be able to tell you how it works. So.
I can, but I would
That'll-
have to specify 2 different ways.
Yeah,
because they're different,
we'll
so.
wait till we get
Yeah.
closer and we have stuff ironed
I
out.
think
Yeah.
that sounds like a good idea. I
Yeah.
like that.
It is an available option on all the technology I'm looking at. I can tell you that for a fact. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Which brings us to the 99X service update from Heidi.
Okay, so lately I've been piling over some fun GPS data on our fixed route schedules and our fixed route buses and how we're running. In my research and findings, I have found that we've amassed a lot of time in idle. At times, some of our buses are sitting at the transit center for 15+ minutes, which is almost a trip to Oregon City. So I've kind of compiled a potential schedule option. This isn't definite. It's just kind of giving you guys an idea of what we possibly could do for the 99X and the increase in service that we could do. So you can see we would increase depending on the times and how far out. Right now with the budget, I believe we said the last run probably would be a no-go, right?
Well, let me back us up a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Give you a little bit of context. This project actually came from my commute, believe it or not. It doesn't take 30 minutes to drive from Oregon City Transit Center to Canby. And right now our schedules are built in 30-minute windows, which I appreciate the logic that brought that to bear. The problem is that what I found was 2 things. One is drivers don't want to sit at bus stops. So they often were leaving Oregon City and just barreling it into the Canby Transit Center, sometimes arriving as much as 15 minutes early and sitting for 15 to 20 to 30 minutes. And the other problem we have is because the drivers are sitting, we end up paying a lot of downtime. I think Heidi's calculations is we're paying upwards of 3 to 4 hours a day, not including breaks and lunches, just drivers not operating the vehicle, just sitting there, which means that, we're paying for not service, which that doesn't sit well with me. If I'm paying for hours of service, I'd like to get hours of service. And that's our fault for not relooking at the schedule, not the contractor's fault. They're doing exactly what we asked them to do. So I want to make sure that's very clear. So I asked Heidi, I said, I want you to start looking at the GPS data of the buses. So look at what the buses are actually doing and see where these efficiencies can be had. And so she spent now several weeks just poring over data. And then she's looking at rebuilding the schedules in such a way that we can squeeze a little more service out of that time so that we don't have drivers sitting, we have drivers moving, and it allows us to increase the frequency and some of the trips on our 99X, which I think would help us with ridership. Because TriMet is as frequent as it is nowadays, meeting up with TriMet's not an issue anymore at all. They're there every 15 minutes or more, so it's pretty easy to catch them. And if we're running frequently enough, Wilsonville's pretty easy to catch, and so is South Clackamas. So meeting up with the other transit agencies isn't really an issue. The biggest issue we have right now is our transit center is too small for everybody to be there at exactly the same time. Between the Canby Loop and South Clackamas, our Dial-A-Ride, and the 99X and Wilsonville, we can't fit all these buses. So we can't do an exact meet time now. We kind of need to adjust that a little bit. But the goal was to maximize the dollars we're spending on service. So that's what Heidi is doing. So she's come up with some options. And so she's I'll let her take this back over.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot all those details to tell you. So looking at it, we could increase our Oregon City trips, 2 more trips overall. The big one, which I'm kind of happy about, not to pat myself on my shoulder, but is we can increase our Woodburn and we could potentially even increase it past 8 o'clock,
What?
the trips.
But past 8 to what time?
No, past 8 o'clock. Right now, the last,
How late is what she's asking.
oh, it's until 8. Sorry, I got some other screens kind of in my way, so I can't see that last one.
8:32.
Thank you,
That's
8:32.
when you get back to Kansas.
Yeah. So the last trip, we would leave Woodburn at 8:13 and get back at 8:32.
What time do we leave now?
The last trip from Woodburn is at 9:20 or 9:32 or 7:32.
7:32. So we'd have an hour of service.
Sorry, I was thinking 19. So we could increase it out an extra trip.
Which,
Is that for 6 days a week?
5.
5. And just to be clear, when we say we're not actually increasing the number of hours we're running. We're just increasing the efficiency of the current hours we have.
Increasing the number of trips within that same time. frame.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. but-
So the money
but
should be roughly the same.
This is the 99X run on Saturday?
It does.
Yes.
Run on the same schedule?
No, the 99 on Saturday runs at a reduced schedule. And I have not had the chance to get all the data compiled from Saturday to see if the times match up to what we are averaging on the weekday.
Okay.
And so it might be adjusted a bit. There is some downtime there, but I just have not compiled a schedule to reflect that just yet. This is still kind of a tentative, just floating some ideas and looking at how it works.
Okay.
So, and everything on here in bold is either they're going on a break, ending a break, or lunch, or their shifts starting or ending. If it's underlined, it's a start-end shift. So that's kind of how I did it to kind of keep my head straight sometimes.
But when are you looking at this to take in effect?
What's that?
When do you look for this to take effect?
September.
Really? Yeah.
If I can get it done in time, or if Heidi can get it done in time, or I've relegated our service changes to only the driver. The drivers have to sign for their work every 4 months. And so I've relegated our service changes to only when the drivers are going to change.
Okay.
So their next change is September, which means we'd have to have this done by August. If we can't make that, which is okay, we'd be looking at December, so.
Okay. Okay, the school year would be good.
Yeah.
So, and is the 99X meeting with the Chariots now? Do they have a close connection?
Yes, they connect at the Woodburn Bi-Mart. And this would actually at sometimes make it a better connection for people than what we have. It's pretty close with what we have, but there are some times that Chariots.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get some new schedules. Okay, then how did you want to tell us about the parade?
Well, Nancy had a
No,
question.
Just a comment to make. It looks like the buses continue, when they reach Oregon City, come back to Canby, they just continue on to
Yes.
Woodburn. You're adding more frequency to Woodburn, correct?
More frequency, less transfers. So they basically stay on the same bus. This is just one of them. I'm kind of floating the idea of hot swaps where the driver literally changes out at the transit center. They don't even come back to our yard. They literally swap buses, so everyone just stays on. It's an extra like 10-minute layover, just so they can, do their walkthrough pre-trip, make sure everything looks good. And then I'm floating another idea where they have a little bit more gap in between the runs. But pretty much it's straight through. That's something Todd was very adamant about, is he would like to see the bus start in Canby, go all the way to Oregon City and all the way down to Woodburn. So that way people don't have to worry about transferring from bus to bus.
We have an issue right now where people on several of our routes have to, if they're coming from Woodburn or coming from Oregon City, they want to continue on. They actually have to get off the bus and get on a completely different bus
Oh,
to continue service. And I would prefer that if they're going through, they can just stay. That's kind of what I'm looking at. We can't increase the number of service hours right now just because of finances. So one of Heidi's challenges with the hot swap is it can't increase the number of hours we're actually
yeah.
doing service. We have to keep that the same. So hot swapping may not work. It also may not work for efficiency as far as the buses go. So she's going to do some more math on that and figure that out. But that's ultimately, I would like the buses to, as much as we can't do it all the time because we have commuter hours where the buses are running more frequently and we may have to just turn them around and bring them the other way. But I'm trying to minimize that so that people going to Woodburn can stay on the Woodburn bus and vice versa.
So why was the original schedule set for 30 minutes from Oregon City to Canby?
So I could do my best to explain this, but I'm pretty sure Nancy has a good idea about it. But they had studies done from a contract agency who actually did run times and checks and stuff. And then they took the data from that, compared it with the schedules of other services like TriMet, Chariot, Smart, South Clackamas. And they built the schedule and said, we think this is the best for you guys to run at. Run 20 minutes to Oregon City, 5-minute layover, come back, wait until the top of the hour, and then go to Woodburn in 22 minutes. And then 10-minute layover, so you can make sure we connect with Chariots and then come back.
Yeah, the first schedules were set up on the top of the hour and bottom of the hour. And it was found that the studies did show that the window would be close to 20 to 25 minutes. But the way it's running now, we're able to utilize less time in getting to Oregon City, for an example, so we can do more with the time.
But does traffic change at the time of day? Is rush hour traffic take longer to get from Oregon City to Canby?
Yes, it can. And we do have a built-in 5-minute extra window. It's the same thing we did with the loop update that we did. And we've added a 5-minute buffer at each hub stop
Okay.
to account for any extra traffic. And if they do run a little bit behind, they will make it up as they go.
If you look at a schedule like TriMet and you look at their buses, their buses actually run differently throughout the day. So you take like a 33 will have a tighter schedule in the morning, a wider schedule during rush hour.
Yeah.
So the schedule flexes a little bit. So
Yeah.
we'll take that into account. But we can, 25 minutes, at least in today's day and age, is way too long to get to Oregon City. I do the speed limit and I do it in about 12. I think it takes our drivers with passengers, what, 18, if that? So-
18's being pretty on the far end of that.
Yeah,
Usually
so-
it's about 16.
So things have just shifted as far as traffic patterns go. And that's one of the things we should always be doing. This schedule has been in place for almost 10 years now. Is it? Yeah. So we need to, kind of check these things periodically as Heidi is doing. And we often find that the world changes, and so we need to make changes with it. So,
Good.
so this is, I think this will be a positive change. The more frequency and the simpler we can make it for the writers, the more likely people are to use the service. So that's the hope anyway.
Well, and that's what we've seen with the loop change is we increased it, shortened it, and we're seeing a lot more. We almost so close broke 1,000 on the loop last month. We were just shy of 1,000 on the loop. So,
Very good.
yeah.
Are there any other comments on this topic? No? Well, then we'll hear about the parade.
Yeah. So 4th of July is coming up, and I've talked with Jamie, our economic development director, and I've talked with Todd, and we have decided we're going to put one of our brand new large coach buses in the parade. I already got decorations for it, so maybe we might win an award. Who knows? So we're going to throw out some candy and, do a lot of PR with the community and be in the parade. I'm not sure whereabouts in the parade will be, but we'll be somewhere. You guys are more than welcome to come join if you choose to. Throw candy, tokens, stuff like that to kids. You guys are more than welcome to join. I gave you guys the information on when it is. I believe we have to be there by 9:30 for setup. So, and the parade starts at 10. So if you do want to join, please let me know, because I do have to give a list of who's going to be involved with our float to the economic department, so they know how many people we'll have in our group.
So be where by 9:30?
So the parade starts over by, is it Night? No, I can't remember. I get those two schools mixed up all the time. I can't remember which. Yeah, it is Night. So the setup on the staging area is right by Night and Eccles, kind of in that area between Cedar and First Street. And that's what we'll be setting up. But you guys are more than welcome to come meet us at our office, and we will take a bus over and, yeah.
Carol,
It'll be fun.
if you want to come, we can just let us know. We'll arrange to get.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just gonna ask you if I could get it
Yeah,
out.
Well,
we
if
will-
you're interested, we will make sure you.
We'll come and get you. Yeah,
So
I'll
we'll
see
get you there.
what my plans develop into for that holiday.
yeah.
I don't
And
know what day of the week it is.
it's on a Monday. Our service is closed, just as a reminder for people on 4th of July. So I'm hoping maybe some of our drivers are willing to come volunteer some time and do some,
And
outreach.
Heidi's going to be driving, so.
so watch out.
Oh, my.
I know. Woo. So
And what
anyway,
about decorating the bus?
I'm planning on decorating either that Saturday. Some of the stuff I can't put on it until I've driven it to the location, so I'll probably be taking the bus over a little bit sooner. But if other people want to join, maybe Todd might help us, depending on how many people. We can take a smaller bus, park it, and have people on and off of that one for transportation while I do set up.
Well, I do have a question. Do
No.
the windows open on the bus?
What's that?
Do the windows open on the bus?
They do, but only for emergency purposes. We can't prop them open and
So
drive.
how are we gonna throw candy out of a bus when the windows are closed?
Some people have to walk with the bus, hoping that they don't get run over by the driver.
Well, I won't be-
No,
Really?
We'll walk alongside of the bus.
Really?
I don't know if they'll be able to do it, but I may bring my kids and, we can toss candy and stuff like that. Or you can just sit in the bus and wave.
Yeah, if you want to sit in the bus and wave, you're more than welcome to. I have air conditioning, so I would recommend that. Yeah, and if we can maybe see if the Boy Scouts want to join us, if I don't get too many volunteers on our side, so.
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome.
So, so if you could just let me know by, if I can get my calendar open here, I believe the 24th, if you're interested, that Friday. That way I can get a list of people, or if the Boy Scouts can help, I just need a list of names.
I'll email the scoutmaster and see if here.
Yeah.
Next week, so.
That'd be a good thing to have scouts. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
that's good.
that'd be
That's
kind of
great.
cool. And I have a big cat head if one of them wants to wear it.
How
Just
long
kidding.
is the parade? What, how many miles?
Uh, no, not 500, yeah.
I think it's only like 1 or 2.
Yeah, it literally just starts at, was it? Fourth and Elm? Yeah, Fourth and Elm goes down to First Avenue, goes down to Ivy Street, or sorry, Holly Street. There is a no candy zone by the Waite Park between Third and Fourth. So we can't toss out candy there. So we'll have to make sure people know that and understand that. And then it goes all the way down to Knightsbridge, around Knightsbridge, and then back to the school on
It's all
Cedar.
on this side of town.
It's all on this side of town, so we won't be hampered by a train. So, yeah,
Is there
so,
any other? Oh, we've got a 99 service expansion?
Expansion.
Have we covered that?
Nope, we gotta cover that. So I've been approached, as I said, by Salem, and I've been approached by Clackamas County. I don't know that any of these are feasible right now, but we should start talking about the potential possibilities for expansion of the 99X. So, and just so you know that both of these requests are a little out there, but this is what they would love for us to consider. Salem would like us to go to Chemeketa Community College.
I knew you'd like that.
In Salem?
Yes, that's that. Now, if that sounds far-fetched, they do that with Wilsonville. Wilsonville goes all the way into Salem. Salem comes all the way into Wilsonville. And that's what Salem is proposing, is that we run all the way down there, they run all the way up here, and we do this back and forth thing. So something similar to that happens now. I think that's a little far. I would like to look at the possibility of going further through Woodburn, maybe even as far as Jervis, if possible. So that's a possibility. And nothing is set. I'm just throwing out some of the thoughts so we can start thinking about the value of potential expansion for the folks who live here to allow them to get other places. The other options that have been thrown at me by Clackamas County are the Clackamas Town Center, running from hitting 205 at Oregon City and then just shooting straight to the town center. My predecessor wanted to go to Park Street on McLaughlin to hit the orange line. And then Clackamas Community College was one of the other potential options to expand to. So we are getting requests from other properties. I've also had a request, and I have no idea how this would even work. I can't remember the name. There's a school in Woodburn, not quite in Woodburn. It's actually the Donald, it's near closer to Donald off of Boone's Ferry, and they would love for us to somehow get over there. And I'm not sure how that would work. So my point being is that we're getting requests to make the 99X do more. And it would be nice to look at those in the future and see if there's some potential possibilities for expanding our connections. Right now, we do pretty well on the north side. I think, there is the Clackamas community side. There's also Winco up there. I'm not exactly sure how that would work.
I'd love to be able to get to Winco on the
Yeah,
bus.
yeah. And then Clackamas Town Center does connect people to the Green Line, which was kind of the purpose so that people could use that to get downtown or to the airport. And then the Orange Line is all the way down at Park Street off of McLaughlin, and that takes people directly downtown. When TriMet installed the Orange Line, and I take no responsibility for this, I was there as the manager rail at the time, but it did a significant amount of damage to the 99X because a lot of people rode the 99X to the 33, and then the 33 would take them straight downtown. Once the 33 stopped going downtown and stopped at the max, people didn't want to make two transfers. So instead they would just drive to the park and ride at Park Street. And so we lost, I'd say almost half of our ridership at that point. So there may be some desire for people to go a little further. The reason I like the southern area further is because I don't think there's enough service down in that area. There's a very large Hispanic population down in that area. Woodburn does okay, but there isn't a lot of good connections. Right now, we meet Salem a couple of times a day at Bimart. It's not a good location to meet Salem. It's actually a terrible location. It's in the middle of a parking lot with no structure or anything. In fact, I don't even know how people know we stop there because our sign is actually on the street almost. It's in the,
You have to know the spot.
yeah, you really have to know the spot. It's a bizarre spot. And so at minimum, I've told the city of Salem, I'd like to come up with a if we're going to stay in Woodburn, a transit station that we could actually meet at 99X. And if we're going to do that, I'd like to go all the way down to Goodwill because we do not have a Goodwill here. And maybe even a little bit further to allow more service along that corridor for both the folks in Canby, but truthfully, all the folks who want to move along the 99 corridor. So these are just thoughts that are in my head and they're requests that we're seeing from other areas. Of course, we'd need to get funding. So if we were going to expand to Salem, we'd be asking Salem to help fund it. Northbound, if we were going to go northbound, I've already talked to Clackamas County and they would absolutely consider funding it with some of their STIF funds. They've also asked us to look at potential expansion of Dial-A-Ride outside of Canby's borders, and they would consider funding that as well. So if we wanted to go as far as Barlow and start to cover Barlow with our Dial-A-Ride service, and we wanted to put in a application for their STIF funding, some of their STIF money to allow some Barlow Dial-A-Ride service, they'd be interested in that. If we wanted to go a little further east, right now, that some of that South Clackamas territory, but South Clackamas does not have a Dial-A-Ride service. The Clackamas County said they may be interested in helping us fund that. So there are opportunities potentially for some growth of our service and some potential funding to help us with those services.
Another area that could sure use the service is the Regency Mobile Home Park off of New Era.
Yes.
It's real close to Haynes.
Mhm. Yeah.
That area is hurting for Dial-A-Ride.
Yeah, that would be a good expansion as well. So it may actually behoove us to look at the possibility of talking to Clackamas County about expanding the Dial-A-Ride service and saying they have a program called Reaching People that just doesn't have the capacity to deal with the number of calls they get in our area. And since we don't go outside the urban growth boundary, we don't service. I got a call from a lady in Barlow and I had to tell her, I'm sorry, we can't go to Barlow to get you. So, which is unfortunate, but that's where our boundaries are right now.
Well, why doesn't South Clackamas go to Clackamas Town Center? They go to the college, they could go on to the town center. Why are they asking us to do what they?
No,
do?
I'm sorry, Clackamas County, not South Clackamas.
Oh,
The county itself is talking to us about these potential
oh, I
expansions.
see.
And the reason they were talking with the Clackamas Town Center is to connect people to the MAX train so people could get downtown and come back and that way. So,
Well, there are, I think the last time I took the bus to Clackamas Town Center, there were, I think, 3 TriMet buses
Mhm.
that go there.
there is.
So there's a pretty good chance of getting the bus. One of them takes like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's a great option. I'm just saying that's one of the potential options they threw out there. Wilsonville is actually going to run a service to the town center themselves. Yeah, it's going to go all the way from Wilsonville out to the town center.
Smart used to go to the Oregon City Transit years ago.
Yeah, we were talking about the potential of them coming off the freeway and meeting us in Oregon City, which would be great, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, so we'll see. So these, Carol, these are just thoughts and ideas. I don't know that any of them are fantastic. I mean, I'm hard pressed to find a valid reason to go all the way to Chemeketa.
Why
But,
is Salem
you know,
asking that? Why do they think we should do it?
with Salem,
Yeah.
because that covers the entire 99 corridor, and that's what they would like to see. And they would like to do it with us as a partnership like they do with Wilsonville. So,
I think if they're willing to share funding with us and it's feasible, I think eventually with all the urban growth that we're experiencing, the annexation of those 40 acres that the city did a few months ago, the urban development is here
yeah.
and it's on the doorstep. If we have those or look at those and be preemptive for 10 or 20 years down the future, I think the future generations are gonna thank us when all these houses start going in and the population of the city increases. And we've already thought of that and things have already been mapped out. I mean, we have everything to gain and nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
if we were to go either way or
Yeah.
both ways, how many more buses would we have to purchase?
We'd have to do a lot of analysis as what this service would look like, how often would it run before we could even get to that conclusion. I will say in our transit master plan, if you look at the way the transit master plan looks at things, the belief in the transit master plan is the connection between cities is the most valuable connection we can make. So expanding outside of Canby's borders to connect more cities together to them in that plan was more valuable. The loop is valuable, but the actual expansion outside of our borders to connect our city in more ways was more valuable.
But it's connecting the cities, like just into the city limits, or is it into the city center?
It depends on the city and what we were looking for.
Because I mean, if we're going to go as far as Chemeketa, I'd just soon go all the way into the transit center in
that's-
downtown Salem.
Always a possibility. I'm sure they wouldn't balk at that as well. Our college, now, the only reason I balk at Chemeketa, our college is Clackamas Community.
Yeah.
So that's where our kids go for the most part. Doesn't mean they can't go to
Don't they have
Chemeketa.
a
I think
satellite
that should-
Chemeketa?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that should be more of a priority for getting our kids to our local college
school.
on.
I,
to start.
and I don't know what that looks like. South Clackamas goes there right now. You do have the opportunity to get to our college by dropping off at Oregon City and riding transit.
I know my son took a class,
Yeah.
a couple semesters, and he had to take 3 buses and it was, he could do it and it took about an hour, but if we can make it easier for, I know
Mhm.
he has friends that make that jump and stuff like that. I think it's the long-term potential for allowing our young children and our college students to access that.
Yeah.
If they don't have vehicles, especially with the gas prices and stuff like that, it's gonna make it a lot better for them and more feasible.
Yeah, so there's some value in looking at these expansions of the 99X and the potential connections we could make throughout the community. And see what we could do to help bridge some of these gaps that we currently have in the county.
Well, if they really want us, if Salem really wants us to do this and Clackamas County wants it, they should come up with enough funds to make it possible so that it doesn't hurt us.
Well, we would have to ask. And I would have to go to their stiff committee and say, this is how much we need to make it work. I don't think it's feasible for the 24-25 biennium right now because it's a huge project and it's going to take some real analysis. But it is something we need to start planning for so that we can be ready to kick it off as soon as we can get the funding, which takes some time. But in order to get there, we need to hash out exactly where would we start? What would we want to look at first? Where would we want to go first? What's feasible and what's not feasible. So my purpose today was really just to get you all thinking, and we can bring that. We'll talk about this again at the next meeting, thinking about if we were to expand the 99X, where and why, and or what other connections throughout the region would we want to make? I mean, right now Wilsonville comes every hour, I think, and it's every hour. Would we like to increase that to every half hour by running, parallel to Wilsonville? They come in, we go out type of thing. So those type of connections are available out there to connect Canby to the outer world a little bit more.
It's a little inconvenient.
Yeah, they're all somewhat that way. I mean, running all the way to Salem is an hour and 20-minute, so it's not simple. And Scott's sitting here clenching because he's like, how many drivers that is? You know how much?
Well, that's what I say. I think the entities that want us to cooperate on this have got
Yeah.
to be willing to make it feasible for us.
Well, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
Well, I say let's
There
pursue
will,
it.
there will be lots of sharing. There's money to share these programs through ODOT, through some of these other entities. Clackamas County, it's like the expansion of Dial-A-Ride. Clackamas County has already told me, if you guys are interested in expanding to Barlow, why don't you apply? Because we'd be willing to look at funding your expansion of Barlow as far as Dial-A-Ride goes. So we just have to, as a committee, come up with some plans or ideas of what this future looks like. We are going to hopefully be looking at redoing our transit master plan, I hope, this year. I'm going to go for a grant here as soon as they reopen and see if we can't get that funded. Cost has gone up dramatically. But that'll help also inform where we go from here. But start thinking about, we've got the loop running. I know we want to grow it, but as the entire region grows, how do we better connect our city? We got a lot of businesses coming in. So how do we get the workers in and how do we get people out?
I think geographically Canby is a hub
Yeah.
for the South Clackamas
Yeah.
region. And if they're willing to put the money up, let's build our empire.
So,
No,
yeah,
I think it's all positive.
yeah, it is positive. It's a long-term plan. But we need to start thinking about those potential long-term plans.
Is there any other discussion on this? That brings us to the end of the agenda, but I do have a couple of issues that I wanted to
Sure.
refer back to. At our last meeting, I expressed my concern about the safety issues with the drivers not getting off the bus when
Yeah.
they deploy the ramps.
Mhm.
Was that been addressed with the drivers?
We did address that. Have you seen it continue?
There are some who always do.
Mhm.
There are some who never do.
Okay.
And there are some who do when it moves them.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll get off when I get on, but they don't get off when I get on to go home. Or, it's hit and miss.
Okay, we did address that. If we need to readdress that, we'll speak with, I think we have a pretty good idea of who the potential individuals are.
And it seems to be an issue of if the driver gets up from their seat and then they try to put down the ramp and then they're gonna go down the ramp. By the time that ramp comes out, I'm already started up because they're not getting out the driver's door and walking around the
Yeah,
bus.
that shouldn't happen. So we will readdress that.
And I
So,
will say this,
Hmm.
the women always get off.
well, that's good.
Uh-huh. The other thing I wanted to bring up, Todd, was some time back,
Mhm.
there was some discussion about working with SMART to see if they could use Third Street instead of Second when they come into town because
Yeah.
of the businesses, whatever developed.
We haven't gotten that yet. So I've talked to them, I've addressed it with them a little bit, talked to them about it, but it hasn't gone beyond much more than a discussion at this point. So
I don't see why it would be a problem.
it's not really an issue. We just have to, I think, kind of sit down and say, let's move. So,
Yeah, it is kind of a bottleneck for traffic,
yeah, it is a bottleneck for
particularly
traffic.
when you have so many stops.
Yeah, the good news is they're not in a bad position where they're currently at. So it's time frame. So they're not in the busy hours. They don't have the issues we do, but yeah, it would be helpful.
Okay. So if there's no
So,
other issues
got-
to bring up,
Something on discussion.
okay.
I was thinking we had a conversation about committee openings, and one thing that dawned on me afterward is our liaison. I sometimes listen to meetings, council meetings, and there's never a report on transit, nor is this person attending our meetings. Is there something that can be done to remedy this?
The liaison committees are assigned by the council, and they are therefore responsible to or not. We invite the liaison, we send that liaison packets, we send the liaison all the information. Unfortunately, outside of that, I've had a discussion with my city manager, but I don't really have control over the liaison. It's just outside of our abilities. We've done what we can do, and unfortunately, I can't do anything beyond that.
What is the name of our liaison?
Sarah Spoon is our liaison.
What's the last name?
Sarah Spoon,
Okay.
council, yeah.
Well, watch for that to come up on the ballot.
So,
So is there any other discussion? Feel free, we got time. If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
And you're seconding? Those approved? Those
Aye.
opposed? We're adjourned.
Good meeting.
We'll have a really good meeting like this.